Some leaders leave footprints, others leave libraries. You're tuning into the Authors on Mission podcast, where industry giants become literacy legends. In every episode, we talk with authors who turn their brilliance into books that transform lives. I'm Danielle Hutchinson, your host and Chief Creative Officer at Authors on Mission. Welcome to your authorship experience. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Authors on Mission, the podcast committed to bringing you top-tier insights and strategies from established experts who have achieved remarkable success in their fields and wrote a book about it. I'm your host, and today I'm thrilled to welcome Ron Kinscherf, a children's book author whose journey is as inspiring as the stories he writes. After a 30-year career in IT consulting, Ron embarked on an unexpected second act when he started creating stories for his wonderful grandchildren. What started as just a suggestion at a family dinner blossomed into 11 published children's books, including his latest release, Adorable. His series is all about a charming colony of ants living under the baker's patio. So we're going to talk all about that soon. And before we do that, I think it's time to meet the author. Here he is. Ron, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me. And you put a lot of pressure on me when you say all those things about being experts and all that type of stuff at the beginning. So I'll do my best for your listeners.
Well, hey, I always say that because no matter what you're an expert in, we're all an expert in something.
In something, yeah. Yeah.
For you, it might be writing children's books or being a grandfather, or being an IT consultant, or being Ron.
Being Ron. I'm an expert at being myself. That is true.
Right. So, yeah, that being said, really cool that, I kind of gave a little bit of background here. Some people always want to be a writer. Others kind of stumble into it. For you, it seems pretty much that it came just because you began telling some stories to those grandkiddos. Is that correct?
Yeah. So my degree's in radio and TV. So I was in radio for 5 or 6 years, and then I wanted to make money. So I got out of it. I had a family, wanted to buy a house and stuff like that. But I continued to do play-by-play. So I always had a kind of creative bent, but writing books was not on my bucket list at all. It wasn't on my bingo card, but right around the time I quit my big boy job where I was an IT consultant, we started having grandchildren. And when putting the grandkids down for a nap or for bed, it got to the point where one in particular was asking me to make up a story rather than picking books. So what would happen is it'd be time for him to go down, and he'd look around the room we were in and just pick a random object. And I would have to make a story up about that object. The first one was a medicine bottle. So I had to make up a story about medicine. And those of us who have grandchildren, you can't say no. You can't disappoint them. So you're kind of on the spot. And so I was making up stories. So that got back to their parents. And when I was in between jobs or out of that job, we were just having a discussion about what I should be doing. And someone suggested you should just start writing these stories down. So that's kind of how this all started. I kind of poo-pooed the idea. And then until I got an idea one evening and just started writing. And that's how the Baker's Patio series came to be.
So it's really cool. And, that story, it's kind of funny because I think, if you were to go to a creative writing class or an improv class, there might be an exercise they give you, like write a story about an object, right? And that's kind of funny knowing that your grandchild just kind of put that upon you.
Yeah. It's something I do. And I do it when I visit classrooms too, because a lot of the second and third graders, they're starting to write narratives and stuff like that. So the teacher wants to know where I get my ideas. And honestly, it's just stuff that happens to me. It's just life that watching my grandkids or things I went through when I was a kid. And that's, I pull that experience and I throw it into my ant colony. Instead of adults having these issues, the ants have the issues. And that's kind of how the stories come about. Right.
Yeah. And that's kind of cool that you incorporate kind of real life experiences then. Is that correct?
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah. That's how most of the stories I've written have come about. And it's also just curiosity. I remember the first few I wrote, and some of these haven't been turned into books yet. It's like, what happens when it rains to an ant colony? Where do they go? And what happens if one of their buddies gets stuck in a spider web? Do they go help them? So it's just little stuff like that that's what got me on this role of writing stories, because I started thinking about the experiences these ants go through as if they were people. And then there's some other things that have happened to my grandkids or happened to me that have been incorporated into the stories also. So, I have no limit to the ideas I get, because I'm living in this world with 5 grandchildren now that are continuously doing things that are probably not the brightest, that but lessons can be learned from what the mistakes they're making or the things they're going through. So I kind of can put my ants, for lack of, into these situations and kind of tell a story that way.
Yeah, and I'm coming from, I was in early childhood education for a very long time. I know exactly how powerful these kinds of stories can be for young kids, kind of role playing out these scenarios that they don't quite know how to express themselves.
Right.
Specifically for adorable, and the children at that age, a lot of the times their parents might be having another sibling joining their families, and it's a common experience. So really cool that you chose to write out that in particular, because they don't know how to express themselves. They're told to love their sibling, but they don't know how to handle that emotion of the jealousy aspect. So wondering, can you share a little bit about that and how you translated that into the narrative?
Yeah, so this happened. I mean, I can remember the day.
Everybody, I'm sure.
So it's happened. Yeah, so my son he has 3 kids, and when he brought home the last little girl, she got all the attention. And the middle child was not happy. I mean, he's climbing all over his mom, and he can't get to his mom because the baby's there. And it was not, I don't want to say not a pleasant situation, but it was a battle for a while. And I'm just sitting there watching this going, I'm kind of laughing that, as a grandparent, you sit back and, you're experiencing all the stuff I had to go through, 45 years ago. But I just got the idea. Right. I just got the idea that I can throw that into my ant colony where the queen has a baby, and her son, the prince, comes home and doesn't know anything about it and walks in the door. It's like, oh my God, there's Mom, what are you doing? And basically he feels like his life has been ruined because there's this new life in his life, and he doesn't think his mom can love him anymore. So he basically runs away until he runs into the wisest creature in the entire neighborhood, who's an owl, of course. And the owl has a sit down with him, and they talk about it, and basically tells him that your mom has enough love for you and the colony, and mom's never run out of love, and there's enough love for everybody. So he ends up going back home, and the way the story ends is he walks into the room where the mom's rocking the little baby ant, and the baby says his name, and Andrew, the prince, is like shocked that the baby knows his name. So immediately there's infatuation with his little sister, and that's how the story ends. But so the baby's name is Adorable. So I had this idea for quite a while, but I couldn't come up with the baby's name. And the majority of my ants in my colony, their names start with A. So it's Queen Antasia, Prince Andrew, there's Amy.
Plays on ants.
Oh, yeah, it's alliteration for kids. So I couldn't come up with the name that fit really. And I knew that was the key to the book, because it's also going to be the name of the book. And just one morning I came on Adorable, and they call her Dora for short. And I just felt that was perfect. Not only is she adorable, but it kind of lends to the thing that the mom's really going to be attracted to her and going to love her because she is adorable. And believe it or not, we kind of made an ant look adorable.
Yeah. I can also see how, especially from the child's perspective, they're seeing that name as, oh, that kid's so adorable. I'm not adorable. Why can't I be adorable? And it's a play on that word. Very clever.
Yeah, I just got it. It just hit me. And it's funny when, as an author, I'm sure other authors feel this way, that you just know when something clicks. And there's been other books that I've written where I'm sitting on it, and then, bingo, that clicks. And now I'm ready to go. And then, this book's been important for me for a number of reasons. It landed me in my publishing contract with Morgan James, and it's really cool because only like 3% of all authors that are self-published get a publishing contract. So that'll be re-released through Morgan James. So it's resonated with a lot of people, parents, and it's meant a lot to me from that perspective also.
Would you like to share a little bit about that, actually? Coming from a podcast about authors and aspiring authors, what did you do differently that, allowed you to get this opportunity? It
is strictly networking, but it's a weird type of networking. It was nothing I intentionally set out to do. Okay. So I live in Quincy, Illinois, a little town with about 45,000 people. Okay. And there's a group of people to get together for coffee on Friday mornings. I was invited to it, and I'm not a part of their club. They let me come and sit every, once or twice a month. I just kind of make fun of everybody. If you knew me, you'd know what I'm doing. I just kind of sit around and listen to the speakers. So they wanted me to join this regional or national coffee thing. I kept putting them off. And so finally, just to get them to don't want to say shut up necessarily, but okay, I'll do it because they're really nice. I'll do it. So I sat in on this coffee one Monday morning, and then there was a breakout session. So within this breakout session, they gave us a topic and we went around and everybody's saying, hey, what do you do? And I told them what I did primarily for a living. And then I said, I also write children's books. And there's another author in this thing that writes book. I think she was a nurse and was writing a book. She goes, there's somebody you need to talk to, and I guarantee you she can help you. And I literally said, guarantee is a big word. That's a big word. She goes, I guarantee it. I go, if she doesn't help me, I'm going to drive over there and find you. She lived in North Carolina. I was just guaranteed. Don't get my hopes up here. Okay. So I gave her my contact information. 3 hours later, she's on the phone with this guy calling me and introduced him. And he goes, yeah, I'd love to read some of your stuff. I'll send you an email. Send me the last thing you did. Adorable had already been self-published. And that was the last thing I had. I sent it to him. And 2 weeks later, I had a contract. He was a talent scout for Morgan James. So there's about 8 different people in this chain that helped me get this publishing contract. The nice part about it is I got to keep my IP. So all of the pictures and everything are identical to what the original self-published book was. The only thing that's different is the cover and the back cover, which is really, really, really rare in children's publishing. So I got to keep my illustrator. I got to keep everything else. So
out of curiosity, why was that change then?
Why was it the cover change or? Because yes. The way I did my books, and it's kind of tongue in cheek because I don't take my book seriously, is I always say it's volume number 6, 7, 8, just kind of make it like seem much more extravagant than it should be. And it's the Baker's Patio series, volume 1, and it's all in Roman numerals and everything like that. So since it was the 8th book, volume 8 of my series, this was the first one they were printing. So it wasn't going to be volume 8 within the Morgan James publishing family. So they wanted to not have that on there. Also, the back of the hardest part of creating a book for me was always the back cover, because that's usually where you put your pictures of yourself and all that. And I wasn't going to do that. I mean, and they had some specific things they wanted to put on the back cover that I didn't have on mine. And I was completely okay with that. As long as I could keep the IP in the middle the way it was. Plus, I've never published a book. These guys know what they're doing. They're the experts. It's kind of hard for me to say, no, I don't want to do that, when they're letting me keep the IP. But we put it, so that something different put on the back of the book was we put a review on the back of the book that I had received, and then put a little synopsis of the story, your typical stuff, and then some bio information on the back cover. So I had no issue with any of that stuff.
Understood. Yep. Yeah, I asked that because, there's always different processes going from self-publishing to publishing, having to kind of conform to their routines, their regulations, their expectations. Which would you prefer if we want to get onto that route?
Doing it this way where I control the IP. So what I found out doing this process is that the publishing world is, especially, children's literature, is goofy because I wrote a book, I published it, got an illustrator. I did that 3 or 4 times. Okay. And it's like, okay, I'm going to go, quote unquote, go for it, see what I can do. So I did some slush with the publishing houses. And those who don't know, that's basically an email inbox where you can send your manuscripts. But I would send my completed book. And then I would set on some calls with some agents. And I found out they don't want completed books. They wouldn't even talk to me. They just wanted the manuscript. And I'm sitting there going, in a children's picture book, how in the world do they know what that book looks like? Because that's in my brain. I mean, they could completely change the story by adding the illustrations, you know what I mean by that, to the manuscript that don't necessarily fit what I'm trying to write.
It has to be the right image.
Yeah, I had people ask me, well, what if we want to use a different illustrator? And I'm like, no, that's not really, I'm not going to
you spent all that time collaborating with that one person.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time putting this stuff together, and the book had a very distinct way of being illustrated that we spent a lot of time on. So I wasn't going to do that, and it was just really, really frustrating. So, eventually I fell into this with Morgan James. They let everybody keep their IP, so it was pretty much a perfect situation for me.
Understood. Yeah, so to anybody listening today, there are pros and cons to both sides. So that being said, what I was going to ask is if we could kind of transition into the writing process itself. You've written 11 children's books.
I've written a lot more than that. They're in this laptop I'm using that haven't been published. So,
wow.
Yeah. So my writing process is a little bit different. I don't outline or anything like that. And I get an idea and I just start writing. But I do a lot of the building in my head. Like I've got one in my head right now that I'm working on, but I don't know how I want to end it yet. So that's my process that's just the way my brain works is I'm able to develop everything in my head. And then when it's time to write it, it takes me about 20 minutes to get it on paper. And then I do the usual rewrite. But then some of the stuff that just comes out as I'm writing it, then you go through the normal storyboarding and stuff like that with the illustrator and off you go. But I don't think it's anything really special that I don't get a pen and paper out and, this is going to happen first, this is going to happen second, this is going to happen third. It's just kind of created in my head and I spit it out. And then I sometimes move things around. That's my process. That's probably the wrong way to do it. But it's the way it's the way I used to turn papers too in college and stuff like that.
Right. And I wouldn't say that it's a right or wrong way. I would say that it's more so what works best for you.
Yeah. And it's just, you're right. It's me. I'm a very spontaneous kind of guy. I say what's on my mind a lot. And that's kind of the way I write too.
Yeah, exactly. So, I see what you mean by that. You have to kind of get your ideas out on paper first. And then after that, kind of figure out the best way to actually go about saying them. That being said, though, that's only one element of your books. The other side of it is the images, which you really did express was huge, especially with your publisher. How was that collaboration?
How I found her, again, I'm in the small little town. I asked some people around here and I couldn't find anything I really liked. So I used a website, did a search and found Holly Brogard up in Minnesota. And we just hit it off. She's like a little kid. I mean, she's got the perfect personality for drawings for children's books. And I was just starting out. She was just starting out. And we just hit it off. And I had a specific idea that I wanted these books to look like. So what's unique about being a grandparent is now when I read children's books to my grandchildren, I pay more attention than what I did when I was a parent. Because when you're a parent, you just want to get it over with so you can get the kids to bed so you can go and sit on the couch and watch Dateline or have a beer or whatever. You just want your day to get over. Now, you want to spend time with the grandkid, you're reading books to them all the time. So I found some things that were frustrating with children's books. Another thing, I had to make my books unique, not look at like anybody else's books because I wanted them to stand out. So Danielle, if you're in a store and you saw opened up a book, you knew it was one of Ron's. So we used the theme from, and I don't know if you're familiar with this, but the Yaha video, Take On Me, the song Take On Me by Yaha. Mm-hmm. It was a revolutionary music video when it came out. It was all sketchy gray, like sketch drawings, but then they threw in color, real people in it as it went along. I love that when it came out. So my books are designed that way, that the background is all grayscale. And then the things that are talked about within the book are color. And every now and then we'll throw in something else in color for the adult. So it'll be like an Easter egg in the book. Like there'll be ducks crossing a road, or we have a hula girl on a dashboard that's in color, but the rest of the car is gray. Just little things like that for the adult.
So what makes you decide which ones would be for the adult, as you said?
It's just things that amuse me. There's one book called Flight School where there's the ants are being trained to be a member of the flight school, the Special Queen's Flight Corps, and the prince is learning how to coach basically. But they have to work out. So the ants are wearing leg warmers and things like that no kid's going to notice, but people who grew up in my daytime are going to understand what leg warmers are. And, the weights they're lifting have acorns on the end. It's just little things that may be amusing to the adult. Right. So those are the things in color because I want them to stand out. They're the part of the story. We have a lot of like the queen flying across a garden. And the flowers in the garden will be gray, makes the queen pop out in her purple with her gold wings and all that type of stuff. So, and then we may throw a couple flowers in there that are beautiful roses, whatever. So, and they would be color. It's just kind of a feel thing that we do. We have one where the Prince Andrew is flying across the sky. The sky is gray, but we have a red and yellow kite flying up in the air near him, and red and yellow are my grandson's favorite colors. So we threw that in there. So it's just little stuff for me a lot, but I also think it's, It's for the adult, because if the adults don't like reading my book, they're not going to buy them. And I found out early, my customers don't have any money. They're 5 or 6 years old. So
right. It's the adults that are going to be buying.
And I want to make sure they like the stories too. So that's one of the things we do with our books. And another thing is, one thing that was really frustrating to me is reading stories in a dark room, like at nighttime when you're putting the kid down, and the words would be on a dark background. Goodnight Moon's a perfect example. That's very hard to read in a dark room because you'll have black lettering on green or other colors. We make sure that all the letters are on white. So we'll white out a portion of the color of the page to make sure the letters are on that, so it's easy to read for people my age, grandparents. So we do little things like that too. Also, there will not be a word, hopefully, that a 5 or 6 year old won't know the meaning to. It is extremely frustrating to read a book to a kid and it'll have a word in there. There is no way in heck they're going to know what it means. No way.
And then you have to define them, and then
it stops
adding on.
It stops the flow of the story, and then hopefully your kid's comfortable enough to ask you that question, Papa, what does that mean? But a lot of times you just go on and they don't know what it means. Then you get, oh my God, I probably should ask, if you knew what consequence meant, or, something like that. Mm-hmm. So I make a very concerted effort not to have any words in these books that are not understand, a 5-year-old won't understand. And what makes it easy for me to a degree is I got grandkids that I can bounce all this stuff off of. I have advisors I don't have to pay. It's nice, Danielle. Otherwise, it's maybe ice cream or something like that.
Yeah, kind of like your own beta readers, but
yes, and one help. And they picked out a cover for me because I have a book called The Monster, which is a story about, and this is something I've always wondered. So let's say you're at the grocery store, Danielle, and a fly gets in your car and you drive away and the fly's still in your car, right? You open a window at your house and he gets out. What's he do? Where's he go?
I guess he's just lost forever, right?
He's like, where are his friends? So I have a story about that where one of the ants gets in a car and the car drives away. And he's looking out the back window, not knowing if he'll ever see his family again, see his friends again.
That's so sad.
So, but anyway, the ants call cars monsters. That's what the queen knows they're a car, but everybody else calls them monsters. So I had to have a monster on the cover, but I didn't want it to be too scary. But I wanted it to be kind of scary. So my grandson helped me pick that
up. Too, right? It has to kind of look like a car.
But we made the grill like jack-o'-lantern teeth.
Right.
So yeah, it worked out. My grandson, he likes to be scared, but not really, really scared. He's one of those kids. He loves Halloween, but he won't run up to the house with the ghost is bouncing up and down. But if the ghost is just there twisting, he'll run up. It's just he'll pick up. So again, I have these outstanding guides that help me through a lot of this process.
Yeah, well, I think every single one of those tips is really insightful. I mean, I'm actually here, I have open a page of Adorable, actually. And I actually, just looking at any given page, I see every example that you just mentioned here. I'm looking here, perhaps I'll send a screenshot of this for everybody to see if they're listening along. Mm-hmm. It's a picture of the queen, and we're introducing her, and in the background is kind of the tunnels of all the different ants going through. And I can see how, there's one little yellow strip of paper there that says lane closed, stay clear. And I can see how that's probably one of the little elements that you left there for the adults to pick up on. Right. There's like a little quirk that, the kids might not care about, but it's something interesting for us. And, just kind of speaking to your target readers there, your target readers are the kids, but also the ones who are going to buy it, like you said. So
it also makes it more fun for me and the illustrator to put together, because we'll sit there with a page. And I have another one called The Sultan, and it's Slug visits the patio. And slugs are extremely slow, right? Mm-hmm. So he meets the prince, and the prince is like, let's get going, man. Come on. But the slug keeps saying, steady and slow, go with the flow. I'm going to take my time walking across the patio. So as he walks across the patio, we throw other things on the patio. Like there's there's a half-eaten pretzel, and there's a screw, things you might find in your backyard. So we would sit there and talk about, so what can we throw on the patio that might be kind of fun? Stuff like that. And in Adorable, if there's the page where the prince is walking up to the palace and the front door is made out of popsicle sticks. And the doorknob for that is like a soda can tab. So the other thing we try to do is everything that the ants use to build things in their colonies would be something they would find on top of a patio. Acorns, twigs, sticks, popsicle sticks. And that makes it a lot of fun for us too, because we'll sit there and have a conversation. Okay, what are we going to do for this door? And then we had to pick the flowers that go atop, the arch across that door. And I don't want to say something. So, and I remember growing up that I can't remember, the white flowers, clovers, and stuff like that readily grow in a backyard that the ants could go get to decorate with, just stuff like that we have really unique and specific rules to illustrate our little ant colony that probably are way overthought, but make it fun for us to put these things together. And honestly, that's the funnest part. The writing's fine, but it's collaborating with my illustrators that are the funnest part, the storyboarding and breaking the story up into pages and, trying to figure out how we want to get the word across in a unique way, to the kids, but also to the parents. And at the end of every book, I try to almost have a dual meaning somewhat, and maybe a little bit of something for the parent too. But Adorable doesn't have that necessarily, but some of the other books do too. Like there's one book where the prince gets in trouble and the queen is just extremely frustrated with him. She goes, what am I going to do with this kid? And the last words come from her assistant that said, all you can do is love him. Just love him. That's pretty simple, but we've all gone through that one with our kids that sometimes knock the snot out of them, but all you can do is love them. They're going to screw up.
I love that. I think it's great, not only that, first off, I could see you have a huge, amazing relationship with your illustrator. It's very collaborative.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a very good sense of who's going to be reading your book, what they need to learn from it. And you have fun from doing all of this, which is also super important.
Yeah, it's fun. Here's the weird part about it, though. So when I first started doing this, I had never written a book. I have never published a book. I had no idea. I didn't know the books had to be divisible by 4 in order to be printed. We got lucky with the first book. It was divisible by 4, but our printer could print it. But I'm working with an illustrator who had done books before, and I was in charge. And if you think about that, that's like me telling a mechanic how to fix my car. I had never fixed a car before, but I'm telling her how to, in a weird kind of way. It was a reverse type relationship, but she handled it really well. The aspect is, Ron, you can't keep Ron, you just can't keep changing these pages on me. We've already got a couple of pages done. We can't go this little stuff like that, because I would keep getting ideas. And she was very patient. Yeah, she was very patient with me, but she also knew I was excited about what the book would turn out with. And part of the deal was I didn't know how many I was going to do. And if the first book worked out okay, who knows how many I would be doing. And now we've done 8 together. So
yeah. I guess that's something that we could learn from regardless of what type of collaborative relationship we're using for our writing. So, for example, if you're working with a ghostwriter, an editor, a reader, you have to be clear with them from the beginning, communicate with them, see both sides of everything, be open to their feedback, just like you said.
And I think that's the big one, Danielle, is I had to be open to her ideas too. And sometimes we do the storyboard and I just leave it blank. I go, I have no idea what I want to do with this. I go, I want you to do a garden and just make it pretty. Make it gorgeous, the most beautiful thing in this book. And she goes, oh, you're kidding me. I go, yeah, go at it. And she goes, oh, can I use the garden I had growing up in my backyard with my mom? It's like, go for it. I think that gives her a little bit more meat in the game, or whatever that phrase is, But it also, it's her work too, And she's the expert. I can't illustrate anything, but I can't really. So anyway, there's been a few pages like that we've done. And she accepts the challenge. Like we have like the owl in Adorable. That was big. She goes, I can't wait to draw the owl. And I'm like, what do you want it to look like, Ron? I go, I want it to look like an owl, duh. But I also want the colors to be a little toned down, kind of brownish and grayish, because he's a wise owl. So I want him to look like he's, add gray and stuff like that, like he's old. And the original owl had glasses. But it just didn't. Yes. So what I did is I posted the owls on Facebook to the guys who follow me on this, and I let them vote, and they voted no glasses. So
hey, that's another amazing strategy too, interacting with your audience, getting them involved in the decision making process. And I
generally do that with my people who follow me on Facebook, because I'll post the covers. Here's a cover, the history of a cover from scratch to the end, start to finish. again, I've never been this before. And a lot of people ask me the process, what do you go through? Just share it with them, because this journey it's just been unbelievable. It's been so rewarding getting into something at this stage of my life where I had no idea what I was doing. And now 3.5 years later, a publisher picked me up. I mean, it's just crazy. This whole journey is crazy. I was in a couple of schools today with kids reading to them, and the expression on their faces, and some of them know me now from being, they've come to other stuff, and it's just really, really cool to go into schools and see kids light up. Light up's a strong word, but you know what I mean. Being able to make them happy.
Right.
You just don't know what they're going on at home or on the recess and stuff like that. But if I can make them smile for the 5 minutes I'm there, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. And I guess at the end of the day, seeing those smiles to the satisfied customers, all of that, that's what really matters. So yeah, I mean, all of this being said, I'm wondering, you have all these books out. I'm assuming there's more to come, more things to look forward to. Can you share a little bit about what might be on the horizon?
Well, like I told you, I've got a ton of stuff written, and a lot's going to depend how this goes with Morgan James. I've kind of held off on producing things because I want to see how it goes with the publisher before I start self-publishing more, because if the response is good regionally and nationally, odds are they're going to want me to continue to work with them. That's what I'm kind of fingers are crossed there. So then it's just getting together and finding out which direction we want to go. Whether we want to go back. The nice part of introducing Adorable with this book is I do have some books written about kids when they're in school, things that happen to kids that not necessarily when they're early adults. So we could just tell some of those stories, or we can just keep going on the path I'm going with Prince Andrew. I've got stories written about the Queen going on vacation for the first time. I've got all the stuff that just keeps popping in. So I'm kind of, probably by the end of the summer, I'll know what's coming out next. But I kind of want to focus on what I got now, because I mean, doing 11 books in 3 years was a lot, and it's not inexpensive to work with illustrators and stuff like that. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I don't know if that's the answer you wanted, but it's the honest answer.
Oh, it is. That's what we want, is the honest answer.
If I had unlimited funds, I'd be putting them out weekly, because the creative process is so much fun. And I've got probably 11 books in this laptop for Prince Andrew and the Queen and for the Baker's Colony that I could put out there. It's just, I need somebody to say, go, here's a check. Let's start making some books. So we'll see where it goes.
Understood. So, that being said, though, I'm sure there's a way for everyone to kind of stay in touch and up to date. And,
most definitely.
When this does come out, please let us know.
Yeah, you can follow me on Facebook, Ron Kinscherf. I'm sure you'll have my name out there. And I generally post what's going on with the books and all that type of stuff when I visit schools. And then my website, papatoniabook.com or ronkinscherf.com, has all my work out there. It has biographies. It actually has a video that we produced about my journey. It's got my grandkids in it. And then there's pages from all my books, so people can get a feeling for what the books look like. And all the reviews I've gotten are out there too. We've got a little widget in the background that takes all the reviews I've gotten and throws them out there. So that would be a good place too. But as far as up-to-date type information, Facebook would be the best place.
Understood. All right. So we're going to put the links to that all in the description box of this podcast today. So as soon as we're finished, everybody, please go ahead and click the links, check it out, get connected, stay up to date.
Yeah.
Regardless of if you have young children at home or if you don't, these books are awesome. They can relate to adults and children alike, with all the little Easter eggs you just talked about. So please go ahead, stay up to date, and be in the know. That being said, Ron, I'm wondering, do you have any last bits of advice for the authors on this podcast?
What I have discovered is you can't do this with the idea that you're going to make money. It's got to be a side hustle to start out with. And if you look at, I don't know who you read or all the other authors that are out there, the novelists and stuff like that, they generally had something else going on when they started writing, whether they're lawyers or private investigators or doctors or whatever. That would be my advice, is that you're not going to be flowing in cash self-publishing your first book. The hardest part of this is marketing, having people realize that you've got stuff out there, and because you have to sell a lot of books on a children's picture book to break even, because you're talking, unless you could illustrate yourself. The other thing is to be prepared to be criticized isn't the right word. It's like any other creative person, songwriter, movie producer, anything like that. You're putting yourself out there in front of people for the first time. And I had no idea if anybody was going to like any of this stuff. I had no idea if the illustrations were going to work. I had no idea if anybody was going to like the way I wrote. I mean, I liked it, but that's me, you know? So it's almost like going out there on an open mic night for the first time and singing songs that you wrote and having people. The other thing is grammar. I mean, I was scared to death. I'm in classrooms with teachers. I was scared to death of the grammar aspect of all this. And I got real, you know, that my commas are in the right place. And so I got really lucky with my proofreader. So there's a lot of little extra things that go into the children's book aspect that I had no idea. But as long as you do it for the love of doing it and want to make kids happy, I think you'll be okay.
Right. Wonderful. I think those are some really insightful tips. You know, don't worry about money, worry about what makes people smile, how it's going to resonate with your readers, what's going to build that audience. And, you know, your whole journey came from connections at the end of the day, right, Ron? So
yeah, it did. Especially, it all came from imaginative play. I mean, with my grandkids. And it all came from me being me. In a weird kind of way.
Being yourself and having fun. I started this podcast saying you're an expert at being Ron. So
yeah, so that helped me get to where I'm at. And you know, the one question we hadn't got to that you had was how did radio and all that type of stuff affect me and what I do? And the reason I got into radio was the theater of the mind. I mean, being able to talk to somebody over the airways and have them imagine in their head what I was talking about was always like the play-by-play. People couldn't see what I was talking about. It was radio. So I kind of had to paint the picture of what I was seeing to my listeners. So that thought process has gone forward with my children's books, that I have to imagine what I'm writing down is going to get through into their heads the way I want it to get into the heads. Now I do have an advantage. I have illustrations, but I try to be really subtle with my message. I don't come out and say, do not lie or, you know, be nice to people. I try to tell that through the story, because in real life, that's not how life works. You know, so that's kind of the way I do my writing too, is somewhat of the theater of the mind type stuff.
Perfect. You know, I was going to suggest that earlier on in this podcast too, and you mentioned all that also. It does play hand in hand. It gives you a lot of prep work. So
in a weird kind of way, it does. Yeah. You
never know where life is going to take you and what those experiences are going to teach you down the road.
And I have never been. I mean, I'm 63. I have never been happier professionally. I mean, I was in IT and I was good at it. Made a good living and all that, but what I'm doing now, I feel like, is what God put me on the thirst to do, is to create content for kids. And I guess the message is just, you never know. I mean, and always take chances. You know, it's like, I mean, you're doing this podcast. I don't know when you found out what you wanted to do to make people happy or make yourself happy. I mean, it took me a while to find this, but I don't think I could have done this 10 years ago or 15 years ago, because I didn't have the life experiences that I have now. And the amazing thing is how much I have learned about myself writing books for kids that are 6 years old. I mean, it's just, there's so many things that have happened that I call it kismet, that have happened over the last 3 or 4 years. Like it didn't hit me until like 3 months ago that my dad worked for Golden Books. He printed Golden Books. That didn't hit me. I mean, I didn't say I'm going to go into children's books because my dad printed children. No. I didn't even realize that until like 3 months ago. I was in this process, like, oh my God, that's another sign I should be doing this. Just a lot of really weird things, kismet type things that have happened on this journey. Understood.
Yeah. And again, it's all about those experiences, and you never know where things are going to take you.
No.
I love that. Well, I do have to say though, Ron, this whole conversation has been really insightful. You're a very natural storyteller and conversationalist too, so I can see how it all comes into play in your books as well. You know, you're very imaginative. You find a story out of everything, just like any object or anything we say. So at the end of the day, thank you so much for this conversation.
And if I could say one more thing, if people are listening to this, they want to get a free copy of Adorable, my ebook, they can go to my website, papatellmeabook.com. Just like it sounds, Papa Tell Me a Book. And underneath the podcast on the menu, you click on that, and there better be a menu item for a free ebook. So if you enter in the password podcast, which is very original, Danielle, podcast, then you can also download some free coloring pages too for my books. So go down there, Get a free copy. Love it. Buy 60 more of them, and off we go.
Well, you heard it here, everybody.
Oh, that's
Go
right.
get your freebies. Check out those links, use the code, and, before you know it, you'll be diving into the fascinating world of ants and make-believe and amazing artwork, too.
And that's another question I get is around how much research did you do on ants? I did absolutely none.
Hey, it's fiction.
It's fiction. It's just what I witnessed in my back patio when my grandson was stomping on all the anthills. That's how this all started.
Definitely. Well, hey, again, it's been an amazing conversation.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Of course. And to all of our listeners, just remember that, Ron's story really does remind us that creativity can begin at any stage of life, come from anywhere, even the most unexpected places. His books entertain young readers and also give us valuable guidance through life. For example, like welcoming a new sibling and Adorable. So be sure to check all of those out. Remember to check all the links in the description box, get your freebies. And also remember, at Authors on Mission, we believe in the power of stories to transform lives. Ron's work is a perfect example of how meaningful narratives can help children navigate their emotional worlds while fostering a love of reading. So remember also, we don't just talk about successful authors, we immerse ourselves in their world to bring you insights for your own journey and the writing process too. Take this all to heart, give it a try, click the links, and all in all, thank you for listening. We'll be back next time with another inspiring conversation on Authors on Mission. Have a great day.
This is Danielle Hutchinson reminding you that somewhere, someone needs the book that only you can write. Visit authorsonmission.com to start your legacy. Until next time, keep leading, keep inspiring, and keep thinking in chapters. Have a great day.